Welcome, everybody. This is our first ever dual caucus meeting. It's going to be a forum where we get to listen to our wonderful candidates who are running to be chair, vice chair at large, and secretary for the Democratic Party of New Mexico. And I'm the chair of the Veterans Caucus, and Mayor Peter Nieto is chair of the Rural Caucus. And we're doing this together because collaboration is what makes us stronger. So I'm going to take a minute and introduce myself. My name is Claudia Reisner. I served 29 years active duty with the Navy. I retired, and Rick and I moved back to New Mexico. I ran for office for Senate District 19 last year, and I lost. And I took away a couple of lessons. Number one, we need to redistrict. 33% registered Dems just does not cut it. And number two, there are a couple of groups of voters that would be a lot more active in the Democratic Party if the party engaged with them more, listened to their issues, and advocated on their behalf. And two of the groups are, you guessed it, veterans and our families. And the second are people who live in rural communities. So I decided that I was going to do something about it. I ran for chair. I was elected. I ran unopposed, and that is the best way to run, I got to tell you. And I was elected. So what we're doing, what our mission is really twofold. We want to bring more veterans with aligned values into our party. And we want to ensure that the party carries out its responsibility to support issues specific to veterans and their families. Many veterans are Democrats, but the perception is that that is not the case. And in my opinion, the Republican Party is a party of the military-industrial complex. The Democratic Party is a party of the people, and veterans are right there with that group. We are the people in the Democratic Party. So what we want to do with this mission of this caucus is to advocate, educate, host events, and recruit veterans and military family members to run for office, because we do have unique issues and representation really matters. So if you are one, you understand the issues, and you're a wonderful advocate to work with all those other folks up in the legislature or any other elected party. So one of the main things we wanted to do was to host events. This is our first ever. So welcome everybody tonight. And I'd like to turn it over to my co-host, Peter Nieto.
Thank you, Claudia. And thank you to the Veterans Caucus for your partnership with the Candidate Forum here tonight. The Rural Caucus is very excited to be a partner in this. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Peter Nieto. I am the mayor of the beautiful town of Mountain Air. Recently, I was elected as chair of the Rural Caucus of DPNM, for which I am grateful. The main goal of the Rural Caucus is to bridge the gap that currently exists within the Democratic Party and the rural areas of the state. We really need to make a change to our rural areas from the conservative red to purple and eventually blue. We most recently saw Valencia County go red, and we cannot continue to let that happen. This won't be overnight, and it will take a lot of hard work on behalf of all of us, but it's possible. I ask that you consider joining one of our caucuses. Tonight, as we go through our forum, please listen carefully to the questions, but especially listen to the answers from the candidates to make the best informed decision you can make when you're voting. Again, I want to thank the candidates and our audience members for joining us here tonight for night one of our candidate forum. During an election, it is super important to get to know the candidates, both about their history and also about the future and what they plan to do if elected to those positions. Again, thank you for joining us tonight, and we hope you join us again on Wednesday for night two. Madam Chair, back to you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. And let's go ahead and invite our candidates to introduce themselves. We're going to start with the chair candidates. Mr. Mayor, would you like to introduce our first?
Yes, let's go ahead and kick off night one of our forum. We're beginning with our DPNM chair candidates. As mentioned, each candidate will have a 1-minute opening remark. Tonight, we begin with Samia Assad.
I give you kudos, Peter. Thank you so much. My name is always chopped up, so I appreciate it when it's done right. And thank you, Claudia, for this, and the Veterans Caucus and Rural Caucus for this opportunity to learn and grow and hopefully inform us as leaders, whoever in every capacity we serve, right? My name is Samia Assad. I'm a proud, lifelong Democrat. I'm the mother of 9 kids. I'm a human rights activist and organizer, and I'm a ward chair. I sat on the Affirmative Action Committee, and I would like to say that I present something unique. I'm a Muslim American leader within the movements. I organize in many different capacities. I wear multiple hats as a chair. I chair the New Mexico Women's March, and I am also involved nationally on that committee. I am involved with the Poor People's Campaign and know well the issues of poverty and racism.
Thank you so much, Sammy. I really appreciate that. And now I would like to invite Athena Christodoulou to introduce herself.
Thank you, Claudia. It's 2038 and my little Sophia is old enough to vote, and she wipes her brow. And as she says, thank you, Yaya, because of your work on the Thrive agenda. It's hot, but it's not too hot. But I get to tell her it wasn't just me. It was the Democratic Party of New Mexico. Hi, my name's Athena Christodoulou. I'm a veteran of over 22 years. It was my honor to serve, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to learn and lead and teach. I have 3 engineering degrees: the good, civil, bad, environmental, and teeny tiny, the nanoscience. I am a technology entrepreneur turned politico with an app. I'm not afraid of tech, but I know when to keep it in its place because I'm an avid gardener living in a solarized adobe home I designed and built on the edge of the city of Albuquerque with well and septic tank. I'm the granddaughter of a coal miner, mother of 3 sons, 21-year resident, and that grandmother of that 2nd generation Mexican-American, that Grexicanish. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you so much, Athena, for your opening statement. Next, we go on to Laura Lucero y Ruiz de Gutierrez.
Thank you, everybody, so much. I just wanted to thank VMF and the Rural Caucus for inviting me. Thank you for your hard work and your commitment to the Democratic Party. Without all of you, we would not be as successful as we are at doing what we do best, which is electing Democrats. This all started for me in the early 90s when I began organizing and testifying for the New Mexico Grads Program at the New Mexico Legislature. My advocacy and my experience is informed by my life as a teen mother, a political science major at UNM, as a mentee to then Majority Whip Mo Maestas, as well as my extensive legislative work and community involvement. I'm running for DPNM state chair because my passion is to empower the voiceless and disadvantaged, not only through grassroots engagement or my advocacy, but also to improve civic engagement so that Democrats can advocate for themselves, win elections, keep New Mexico blue. I'm lucky to have been taught at an early age to have tenacity and to be resilient. My 3 decades of experience in advocacy.
Laura, thank you so much for your opening remarks. And now I would like to invite Jessica Velasquez. Ma'am?
Well, thank you, VMF and Rural Caucus, and thank you all for showing up tonight. Showing up matters. That's the heart of our work as Democrats and a core value for me as a teacher, 3rd-generation family business owner, which is where I'm at, fellow lifelong Democrat, and a recent candidate in a rural red House district. As your candidate for DPNM chair, I've already shown up for you at caucus and county meetings, by hosting forums with caucus leaders, by talking with hundreds of SCC members personally. You told me what you need from your chair, and I listened. Better communication and collaboration with every county, rural and urban, clear plans to recruit and train candidates, drive voter registration and turnout, and build engagement with caucuses, rural and Native communities, and young people. That's how we beat the GOP, and this is just the beginning. Learn more at gojessgo.com. I'm Jessica Velasquez, and I'm asking for your vote for chair of DPNM. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Jessica. That's very impassioned and very appropriate. What a wonderful group of women we have running to lead our party. I think this is really exciting. So I would like to lead off and ask the first general question. The effectiveness of an organization is a direct reflection of its leadership, and leaders who build a strong team maximize their probability for success. Key attributes of an effective organization include clearly defined roles and responsibilities, accountability, training, collaboration, and meaningful communications. Which changes, if any, do you intend to in place as leader of the Democratic Party of New Mexico to increase its effectiveness? Will you bring the CD vice chairs onto the executive committee as a formal rule change to increase our effectiveness and their effectiveness within the party? And I'm going to go ahead and invite Athena to start us off. Ma'am.
Okay, I'm unmuted myself. Thank you. First of all, I would make the council a council of 9. And this would be immediately with the candidates that are here, the chair candidates and the vice chair. They would be ad hoc, and including the secretary, treasurer, and +1, in order to have it in place before we get that rule change to make it official. I'd like to have a round table. I do have an oval table, but I'm very comfortable with Zoom, and that's what we'll be using for most of this year. And I'll take a page from you, Claudia, and the Veterans Caucus to meet every other week via Zoom, in which the CD vice chairs will be required to attend as well. And let's not forget the caucus leaders, because they need to be invited as well and participate. I will keep the time down to an hour and 15 minutes. Here I am being so engineerish. I'm used to running Toastmasters meetings for years and the board of the New Mexico Solar Energy Association as president. We will meet often so that we never miss an opportunity to promote and teach others about the big Democratic hearts in our big tent. And I'll also take a page from Cheryl and the Adelante Progressive Caucus, of which I'm the political director. The ad hoc members will head committees for communication, membership, mentoring, policy, PR, training, with the staff as reliable support and CD vice chairs as good committee members. And I'll bring the CD vice chairs into the executive committee formally, yes, so that we can have a bigger council, more grassroots executive committee, and get things done. Sorry, I don't talk very much.
Thank you, Athena. I appreciate that. And now we go on to Laura for her answer.
So there will be an open communication system and accessibility to leadership, providing regular team building, power mapping, listening, and developing sessions that bring all ideas of the caucuses to the forefront is key to stabilizing and growing influence. In terms of bringing the CD vice chairs to the executive committee as a formal rule change, I would definitely keep that under consideration, especially since we have a very large state that requires a lot of needs to be met. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And now let's turn to Jessica.
Well, leave it to our veterans to so precisely describe effective leadership and organizational structure. We need to make sure our party is a well-run, election-winning machine. So first, we have to improve communications by updating our website, increasing our presence and messaging on social and digital media, and ensuring we communicate in multiple languages. Next, we will create a greater culture of collaboration by teaming with caucuses to recruit candidates, build democratic engagement, drive voter turnout, and win elections. Third, only 1.4% of DPNM's donations last year came from individual donors within our state. I have the fundraising experience we need to kickstart our fundraising efforts. Finally, we will address the role of CD vice chairs. Our current rules have only 3 things to say about the role. First, CD vice chairs perform duties assigned by the chair, serve on the Judicial Council, and are prohibited from using their position to advance the cause of candidates. One of the first things we need to do, and that I will do as chair, is facilitate a discussion with our newly elected CD vice chairs to first create a job description, define their roles, and assign duties, and set goals and accountability measures accordingly. CD vice chairs can and should be critical intermediaries between state party and the county parties. Changes to our rules should emerge from within the SCC and the Rules Committee, And if the SCC and Rules Committee decide to formally change the rules and place CD vice chairs on the executive committee, then as chair, I will fully support the effort. Together, we will ensure that our party becomes one of the most inclusive, effective, and powerful state organizations in the country. I hope you'll join me in this work, and please vote for me to be next chair of DPNM. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Next, we go to Samia. Samia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Peter. I would echo much of what my colleague said as far as the former rule change. If it's voted on and accepted, I will support it for sure. And you know, bringing voices and authentic representation is extremely important. And I feel like the executive director would benefit tremendously from having more help from the CD chairs, as well as giving, I would also want to give county chairs an opportunity to grow in their capacity, give them a little more leeway to express and organize their counties. I think they know their areas very well. I would support them in giving them more autonomy and agency. Ultimately, that will make the platform and the information that is delivered to the party a much more effective in its platform and its outreach, and really understanding how to message it. Giving authenticity, giving agency, giving power to every part of the Democratic
Looks like we lost her, or is she still there? Samia, are you still there? All right, it looks like she was
Can you
cut
hear me?
off. Yeah, there you go.
I'm sorry, I am having such bad internet connections here. What was, did you hear me? What was the last thing I said? I was good?
You were good.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's good. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you to all four candidates for their answers to question number one. We appreciate, as we mentioned earlier, you being a part of this forum. Next, we're going to shift our gears over to rural issues. And here is the question number two. What key relationships and responsibilities will you develop with external organizations, agencies, elected officials, and voters in rural areas? Give examples of the organizations and agencies with whom you will network. How will you, as chair, exhibit tangible DPNM support for individuals wishing to run for office in these conservative rural communities? Let's get started with Laura.
Okay, so as chair, I would network and build relationships with every activist, local organization, agency, elected official, and voter. I will work to build and sustain a voter outreach program that New Mexico has never seen. We are not just preparing for 2022, but we are ensuring our future as a blue state. It has become clear to me that the people need to lead the fight to flip red counties blue, and that our blue counties need to help our red counties by actively asking their counties to lend a hand to our rural counties. My experience in campaigns and grassroots organizing will drive this effort to leave no door unknocked. Sorry, I'm trying to watch the timer. And then DPNM is going to support rural New Mexico and their candidates by helping to build a wheelhouse of volunteers that is available to them via DPNM state office. We will create a sign-up campaign list that we can share with candidates. We will also work to help candidates to develop a base for their campaigns. Some examples of organizations that I would work with are Acequias, food cooperatives, ReadyNet, La Familia, El Centro. Thank you so much.
Laura, thank you for that. And now let's turn to Jessica. What are your thoughts on the rural engagement?
Thank you. I've attended every county meeting that was held across the state and personally spoken with hundreds of rural SCC members. I understand Democrats in rural New Mexico feel abandoned and ignored. As a recent candidate in a rural area and the only candidate for chair who doesn't live in Albuquerque, I'm uniquely qualified to bridge the rural-urban divide and rebuild Democratic participation in rural communities. I'm already working with United Rural Democrats, an organization that offers support for rural candidates and policy initiatives. They've actually begun organizing here in New Mexico with special emphasis on CD2, and I'm helping their state coordinator to build membership. I've also connected with Rural Vote, the political arm of rural organizing, and with Rural Coalition and People's Action, all of whom focus on rural issues, advocacy, candidate support, and political action. We'll also work locally with our land-grant communities, our acequias, and our Native communities, tribes, and pueblos. I have strong relationships with elected Democratic office holders across New Mexico, and in partnership with the Rural Caucus, we will identify key issues, challenges, and areas of opportunity in our rural communities. I'll encourage Democratic office holders at every level to join the Rural Caucus to better foster working relationships and communication between rural New Mexicans and those we elect to represent us. When communicating with voters, we will highlight the policy and legislative work that supports rural revitalization and addresses economic development, internet and healthcare access, and other rural issues. When we show results, we strengthen our relationship with rural voters and see better outcomes on election day. Finally, we will register more voters and recruit and train candidates to run for offices across New Mexico, especially at the local level in rural communities. I'm excited to partner with the Rural Caucus to make these plans a reality, and I'm asking for your vote for chair of DPNM. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, for your answer. Samia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter. I'm a community organizer, and I know very well how to build coalitions and to support causes and issues. I worked on many rural issues with different organizations. I chair the Southwest Organizing Project, and we've worked on the Farm Bill. And I recognize the importance of the ASECOs and the ASECO Association. And I also understand how important it is to have agency and voice. And again, you need to have those spaces where you bring people to learn and get informed about the real life experience of rural America. One way we can do that is have town halls. I will be there. I will be there hands-on and have town halls in rural America. I will make sure that we have our elected officials and federal agencies be there present. USDA, you name it, all the big federal programs should have a seat at the table alongside the Rural and Veterans Caucus. I also would like to form an advisory committee for the rural America, and I will work hand in hand with Claudia and the Rural Caucus to bring attention to all the issues. I'm a fighter. I understand your issues, and the underlying problems in rural America is poverty and understanding what does it mean to bring in business. I'm a small business owner, and I'm just like you. I have a restaurant, and I suffered very much in this COVID. It was a really stressful and anxious time for us. I hear you, I feel you, and I will be a champion for all of you. Some of the organizations I also will work with are, of course, United Way. And okay, that's okay. I'm good to go. Thank you.
Samia, thank you so much for your answer. And next, I'd like to invite Athena. Ma'am.
Thank you, Claudia. I'm already on it. I've already joined a blue CD2. We're trying to get Yvette Harrell out. And mostly it's because I'm a member of the Adelante Progressive Caucus. In fact, I'm their political director. After running for Senate District 21 and losing, and City Council, I jumped into the Adelante political director and worked on the session. In that session, I made a concerted effort to work on rural bills. And we had people like Francis Gonzalez, who helped with HB 200. And I also worked with the Veterans Caucus. I'm their CD1 vice chair. So I'm already involved in the caucuses, and I've already worked with Community Solar Working Group, and that involved working with tribes as well as rural areas. I will liaise to the national DNC and acknowledge I live on unceded Tiwa lands so that we can get the Thrive agenda underway. And this includes for the rural, for the tribal economic development in a good and clean way. And I'm also going to integrate with elected Dems in the rural areas. The 2 caucuses that I'm in have representatives that are part of those, and I know therefore that the rest of the caucuses must also. So we will be working with them, and by bringing in the CD vice chairs to be part of the executive committee that will allow us to move forward, I'll make sure that every election has a Dem candidate. I will call on those caucuses to recruit and suggest possible candidates. I will call on our training committee to help them through the steps, use the Secretary of State, the wards, the SCC, CCC, and precincts as resources for every election. Go blue.
Thank you so much, Athena, and thank all of you for the answer to the question about the rural communities. So the next question deals with veterans and our military families. The number of veterans serving in Congress is the lowest since the beginning of World War II, and New Mexico is one of 12 states that does not have a single veteran serving in our federal delegation. The number of veterans serving in the New Mexico legislature has also declined to its lowest level in decades, despite my best efforts. New Mexico has a large veteran population, almost 11%. Veterans and family members have unique issues, and representation matters. A primary mission of our caucus is to recruit, support, and get veterans elected in New Mexico. How do you envision working together with us to achieve this mutual goal? And I would like to invite Jessica to answer this first. Ma'am?
I look forward to partnering with VMF Caucus to support you in your work. I agree, New Mexico needs more veterans in office. So let's look at the state legislature, though of course we have to elect vets at local and national level too. If the goal is 10% veterans representation in the New Mexico legislature, that means electing 4 senators and 7 representatives who have military backgrounds. I propose 3 initiatives to meet that goal. Number 1, strategic campaign plans. Recruitment efforts will focus on open seats and critical races against vulnerable GOP incumbents. To support these candidates, we'll also prioritize voter registration and ask our caucuses to engage fully in that process. Ideally, no campaign will operate in isolation, from planning to execution to victory. Number 2, recruitment and training. Caucuses are uniquely prepared to encourage potential candidates to run for office. Under my leadership, DPNM will provide training materials on all aspects of campaigning. Our website will become a resource for information and dialogue about issues and policymaking. And through such interconnectedness among the candidates and caucuses, collaboration will be the key to our success. Number 3, fundraising. Robust fundraising is necessary to win elections. As I have learned in my campaigns, training and mentorship are crucial to effective fundraising. As chair, I will personally help with fundraising efforts, mentoring candidates as they make phone calls, networking, or helping caucuses plan and host fundraising events. By working together, we will obtain the necessary funds to get our veterans elected. I'm so impressed by how the Veterans Caucus articulates priorities and organizes for solutions. I will work with you and our other caucuses, and that's why I'm asking for your vote when ballots go out on Wednesday, the 21st. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for your answer. Next, we continue on with Samia. The floor is yours.
Thank you. And I want to take a minute to thank every veteran for their service. You bring honor to our country, and I understand and I appreciate all the time and service and the suffering when you come back to the states where you have no support ultimately. And it is wonderful to see the Veterans Caucus step up to make sure that you have a presence. Representation matters and extremely important. I will say, I've had the opportunity as an organizer and a human rights activist, because I do believe at the heart of addressing veterans is addressing the human rights issue and the human rights elements. You cannot find solutions without centering what are the causes and the real life experiences of veterans when they come home. You have addictions, you have homelessness, there's a lot.
Samia, are you still there?
He's having a-
Many of them were raped. The rape issues as far as women, 1 in every 3. Men, 1 of every 5. The access to medical health is extremely hard. I will commit to bring the town hall meetings to talk about that and highlight that and center that and empower you to find the candidates. Veterans must have the right to be present within our Democratic Party and to serve. And they are no different than the rest of Americans. They are not, the Republicans have politicized veterans since 1980. They've made it almost a patriotic thing to say veterans serve for us. You're right, Claudia. Most veterans are Democratic and they carry Democratic values. And we need to bring them in the party by recognizing their humanity, their issue. And I will also put a Veterans Advisory Committee. You bet your bottom dollar I'll bring the federal representation as well as our state representation. They have to be there in the room to hear all of your concerns. And
Thank you so much, Samia. Thank you for your response. Now I'd like to invite Athena. We'd love to hear your response, ma'am.
Well, first, obviously, by electing me, right? I'm a vet. But that also means I know the caliber and drive of the veterans, as well as being willing and understanding their unique problems. So first thing, I would definitely bring together all the caucuses, including, of course, the Veterans Caucus and the CD vice chairs, calling on the strengths of each leader to reach out, to find members. I'm already on the committee for the Veterans Caucus to find and identify potential candidates. And then we need to point them in the right direction. I've been the political director of the Adelante Progressive Caucus. I ran for city council and Senate District 21. I know what it takes. I self-trained and had a boost from Juliana Kuba of Emerge, which is another resource we have in this state. I ran a campaign, set up staff, ran it smart on a limited budget. We have the talent here in New Mexico, but we also need to call on our US senators and representatives to help. It was huge help for Representative Deb Haaland to help me in a fundraiser and just give me that boost. The second is I'm going to be providing a budget. We're going to have a budget for training. Now we'll ask potential candidates to pay to play to get skin in the game, but it'll be returned to them upon completion as seed for their campaign. And which means I need to also ask for money. And so I'll take a page from Randy McGinn, Melanie Stansberry, Claudia Yu. This is the party's people, not corporate party. So if you vote for me, all the candidates will become part of our chair and executive committee. All the vice chairs will become part of the executive committee. And we will have a true grassroots organization. So I ask that you vote for Athena Christodoulou for chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Athena. Laura, you are up next.
As a chair, I would listen to what has been tried by the caucuses to recruit veterans and what has not worked and what has worked, and work with them about what their ideal candidate might look like to recruit and elect more veterans. The vetting process needs to ensure that the DoD directive around political activities of members in the armed forces and the Hatch Act of 1939 is not being violated or placing a veteran in a position that would make them feel that they are being placed in a conflict of interest. It's also important that we make connections with our local Legion, American Legions. That could be a first step in steering VMF forward. And as a mom and a family member of veterans, this is really big, huge issue near and dear to my heart, because there are three things that we need to hold our congressional delegates to the phone lines and get these issues pushed and answered. One, we need to make sure that we are not dismissing two things: drug issues and mental health issues that come out of being a vet. Two, The vet administration needs to deliver what they plan, proper funding for vets. It's incredibly important. And 3, we need to address sexual assaults in the military and ensure that prosecutors prosecute sexual assaults. Vote for me, and I'll make sure your vets are taken care of, because I know what it's like to have a child who's entering into the military, and many family members as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you to all of our chair candidates so very, very much. Running for office is always a tough job. I appreciate each and every one of you for putting yourselves out there and running for this very, very important position. Please join me in giving them a round of applause for our candidates for DPNM. I'd like to thank each and every one of you again for joining us tonight. Thank you so much. Next, we will move on to our vice chair candidates. Vice chair candidates, again, will have 1 minute for an opening statement. I will now go to my co-host, Captain Claudia, for an introduction of one of our vice chair candidates.
Thank you, Mayor Peter. And I want to join you and everyone else in thanking our fabulous chair candidates. They really did a wonderful job. So let's start with the vice chair at large. Damien, are you on board?
Yes, I am, Claudia.
Please take a minute and introduce yourself. We'd love to learn more about you, sir.
All right, thank you for that introduction. And also thank you, VMF and Rural Caucus members, for being here today. I am Damien Artalejo, and I am running to be your next state vice chair of DPNM. As you may notice, I'm not wearing a suit. And I say this not only with purpose and pride, aside from the fact I can't afford a suit, but instead I'm running on bringing authenticity and empathy to DPNM and getting away from status quo politics. I'm young, a person of color, and a student, and I come from rural New Mexico and lower economic status. Therefore, I know what it's like to be marginalized, and that's what I want to solve and represent as your next state vice chair. I am grassroots, I am rural New Mexico, and I am what we look like. We need to remember that whoever gets elected to the state vice chair position will also serve on the DNC. Therefore, it is my objective to bring the grassroots and the issues of rural New Mexico, VMF, and other marginalized groups to the DNC and not the other way around. And this is why I humbly ask for your vote, not for myself.
Thank you so much, Damien, for your opening statement. Now we move on to Manny Crespin.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Manny Crispin. And to answer your question, yes, I did this as vice chair for Bernalillo County. I hosted several successful events on my own without direction from the chair. I traveled the country with a team of volunteers, and I'm really excited about this opportunity. I served as vice chair for the Bernalillo County for the past 2 years. It was a very successful term. Really looking forward to this opportunity of continuing to serve you as your DPNM vice chair. And I'm really excited about how the race is shaping up. I'm excited to work with veterans and with the Rural Caucus. I grew up in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and so I understand rural. I was there until I was 18, and then I went to New Mexico State University. So I really understand the divide between the North and the South. I thank you for being here, and I'm looking forward to this event. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you for your opening statements. We will now move on to number 1 of the 3 questions we'll be asking you tonight. The first question is, your role is defined primarily as general support for the chair. Will you redefine your powers and duties to include some autonomy? If so, in which areas would you like to concentrate? What will be your interaction with caucuses, specifically the veterans and rural caucuses? Manny, you are up first.
Thank you, Mayor Pete. Yes, as vice chair for the Bernalillo County, I was really excited that I had very successful events without the direction from our chair. I traveled the county with a team of volunteers who organized to register voters pre-COVID. I led the Democratic Party of Bernalillo County's Get Out the Vote efforts for President Joe Biden in October until Biden was elected in November. In that role, I hosted multiple, over 14 phone banks, independent events on behalf of the party. There as the vice chair and that autonomous from the DPNM chair, and that is serving as vice chair of the Judicial Council. In that role, I plan on clearing the current backlog of cases by scheduling several meetings immediately and starting hearings as soon as possible. I specifically want to start concentrating on the outreach to the Hispanic voters, many of which reside in the rural communities of the state. 43% of New Mexico's eligible voters are Hispanic, the highest percentage of any state. As vice chair, I will push to lead an organizing team focused on outreach to Hispanics. As someone who speaks fluent Spanish, I will work hard to make sure that DPNM's websites, forms, and our voter outreach is translated to Spanish and other languages for accessibility. I will also make sure that we are going deep into the Hispanic communities and registering voters with the help of DPNM's caucuses. I will also make sure that our candidates for office are doing their due diligence and not leaving anyone out of their messaging, including our veterans and rural communities. Additionally, I want to make sure that we're doing extensive outreach to the Pueblos and the Native American communities. These are rural communities with many veterans who need to be contacted, listened to, and activated. Being an open, inclusive voice who is reflective of our state and its diversity is how I plan to approach the outreach efforts. I will be open and I will include the DPNM caucuses on all our voter outreach efforts to make sure.
Thank you so much, Manny. Appreciate hearing your answer to that. And now I'd like to invite Damien. You're up next.
Thank you, Claudia. Yes, I will, redefine the powers and duties to include some autonomy for the state vice chair. And it's interesting because I've actually taken the initiative to contact the chair candidates to talk about this specific issue in the last few weeks. Yet, I would like to apologize to Ms. or Mrs. Laura. She is the only candidate I had not had the chance to speak with yet. That is my fault. But with all the other candidates for the state chair position, I've shared my ideas with what needs to change for not only the state chair position or state vice chair position, but also the congressional district vice chairs. And it's because of my experience as a county chair and as a congressional district vice chair. So my answer is actually because the majority of them are on board, 3 of the 4 that I've spoken with, expect for the role for nearly everyone to change if I am honored enough to serve as the next state vice chair. Yet, what I would like to do now, this is my own personal vision, is decentralize some of the autonomy of the state exec team to instead giving it some of it to our state CD vice chairs. By doing so, all the decision making won't fall onto the exec team, whereas instead, we can build a support system for our CD vice chairs, county parties, and caucus leaders, so we can assist you in addressing the issues that you specifically and uniquely face as members of DPNM as well as SEC members, instead of DPNM saying, this is what we need you to do. And by doing so, we bring the grassroots again to DPNM and also to the DNC and not the other way around. Therefore, to sum it all up, DPNM should be a support team for our party members, caucus members, and grassroots organizers, instead of us telling you what you should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien. I like what I'm hearing. So I'm going to ask the second question, which has to do with veterans. You guessed it. What will be your interaction with the Veterans and Military Families Caucus as distinct from our interaction with the party chair and the CD vice chairs? What will be our lines of communications with you? Will you be accessible to attend virtual and hopefully soon actual meetings? And Damien, I'm going to turn it over to you to start us off. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. What will make our communication different is my empathy for veterans and military families. Why? Because I am part of a military family. I have a great uncle who is a Vietnam veteran who is currently facing lung problems due to Agent Orange. I have a younger brother who's looking forward to joining the Navy after he graduates high school. I live with my grandfather who was a vet, and if it wasn't for the VA, we'd be in serious financial trouble. And so, well, how does that relate to the caucus? What I presented is my own family's personal circumstances, and that's the key to this question. It is personal, but I understand that each military family faces different and unique issues. Therefore, we need someone who will be willing to take veterans' issues not only to DPNM, but also, again, the DNC. Our lines of communication will be whatever you like it to be. Now, I personally envision our communication occurring via Zoom, at least for now, in a few different ways. First off, I want to have an open door or open phone policy where I can be contacted at any time by anyone. Secondly, I like to open, or I like to have individual meetings with each individual caucus to hear your own unique specific issues. And lastly, I would like to have multi-caucus meetings so we may hear issues that several of our caucuses may be facing as a collective. And aside from that, what else I would like to do is invite you to tell me whatever I'm missing so that we can close that communication gap and start breaking down walls, building bridges, and plugging holes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damian. Manny, it is now your turn for question number 2.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pete. I commit to being very involved with the DPNM caucuses. Each caucus offers a unique and invaluable perspective of New Mexico. We need to include each caucus in our messaging and voter outreach. I will serve as an advocate for the caucuses and to be a direct line of communication to the DPNM Executive Committee. I see each of the caucuses as a team of experts who understand and fight for the communities that they represent. There's too much at stake to ignore them and not to include the caucuses in our organizing processes. With that being said, as Vice Chair of the Democratic Party of Bernalillo County, the largest county in the state, I've made myself available and created an open door policy. You can call me anytime for anything, ask anyone. I'll be available day or night to attend and participate in caucus meetings, both virtually and in person. Specifically, I'll make sure that I am engaged with both of the veterans and the military family caucuses and the rural caucuses. My new job working as a case manager for the developmental disability waiver allows me to work remotely. I also have clients across New Mexico that I have to travel to see from time to time, and that will allow me to visit with the caucuses and county parties across the state, virtually and in person. I plan on hosting quarterly meetings engaging in different parts of New Mexico that I will call Manny in Your Corner. Lastly, as someone who was raised in rural New Mexico and also someone who has veteran relatives, I understand that we must start engaging and communicating with our veterans in rural areas. We have to make sure that everyone understands the Democratic Party is the party of the people. We understand the challenges working people face, and we care about our service members in rural communities. We have to make sure that our veterans and rural communities understand all of the Democrats and all we do to protect Social Security and VA benefits, that we're improving our infrastructure and educational systems in rural communities, and that we're fighting for economic development and good paying jobs for everyone. We have to make sure that everyone knows that while Republicans.
Thank you so much to both of you for answering that question. We are now moving on to the third question of the night, which is pertaining to rural. One of the 4 defined powers and duties of the Vice Chair is presiding over the Judicial Council. In the recent past, 2 rural counties have accrued fines over a long period of time and are now in serious financial trouble. Effective action was not taken to prevent this or to assist the county chairs in a timely manner, and it has resulted in a negative situation for Democrats and the DPNM in those counties. How would you have dealt with this differently? What specific measures would you like to put in place to prevent this and similar negative situations from happening in the future? Manny, you are up first.
Thank you, Mayor Pete. Frankly, we have a problem with accountability in our party, and it is a shame that the Judicial Council has not been able to solve these issues and get counties who are in financial trouble the help they need. And that's what I'm going to do. The Judicial Council has a backlog of cases that need to be heard right away. As someone who has extensive experience in education and counseling, I believe I can tackle these issues with fairness, equity, and effective leadership. We have to make sure that DPNM staff is reaching out to every county and ensuring that they have tools and skills to file adequate, timely reports to the Secretary of State's office so that it's streamlined and that the leadership teams understand their duties and that they understand the consequences of not being in compliance with the state of New Mexico. And we need to write a real comprehensive code of conduct. We have seen too many instances of impropriety and improper behavior in our party without any real consequences. Under my leadership in the Judicial Council, this will change. I believe our rural counties are being left behind. Sadly, this isn't anything new, And it's not new to me. I lived in the North and the South. They're not receiving the attention they need, and we are seeing the consequences of that. I lived in all 3 congressional districts. The financial, party is trying to remedy these situations, but we need to, continue to work on this because it's compounded, and we need to make inclusion of our rural counties and community. Sadly, we've lost CD2 to someone who does not reflect our communities, and she represents and does not represent New Mexicans at all. We can't let this happen to CD1, and I'm going to fight like hell to get Melanie Stansberry elected to Congress. This means that her campaign will need strong outreach to rural parts of the district, including our pueblos and all of Torrance County. New Mexico is a rural state, and we have to do better with our outreach. I will be an advocate and bring our rural voices to the table every day in my voice as vice chair. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Mayor Pete. And also thank you to the DPNM Veterans Caucus and the Rural Caucus.
Thank you so much, Manny. And now I'd like to invite Damien to address the rural question, please, sir.
Thank you for this question. And I think it is such an important and great question. And this is why fixing communication and decentralizing autonomy from the exec team is so critical and important. Why? Because I've served on the Judicial Council, and I still do, as a CD vice chair within CD3. And I dealt with specifically one county on this issue. How would I have dealt with it differently? One, I'd inform the Judicial Council of the situation ahead of time and not allow the situations that have occurred to take as long as they did. Supposedly, one of the cases had been taking place for nearly 2 years, yet I wasn't uninformed about the situation by DPNM or the previous vice chair until a few months ago, and I was informed of it only 3 days before the hearing of a petition against the county chair for said county. Worse off, the solution that was sought was to remove the chair from leadership. What did I do? I spoke up. I said, I don't agree with removing the chair. How could I be expected to remove a county chair when DPNM had not done their due diligence to inform the council of the situation at hand with adequate timing? Therefore, I put my foot down and I said, I'm not going to vote to removing the chair, despite their want for unanimous vote on the case. I said my efforts will only be focused towards making sure the issue gets resolved and doesn't happen again. What's happened since then? DPNM leadership can now step in afterwards if the Secretary of State cannot get in contact with said affiliated county or even organization within the party for CFIS filings. That way, we as DPNM leadership can get involved and resolve the issues that take necessary action to assist our counties. Furthermore, the Secretary of State has actually lowered the total amount of fines that could be accrued to, I believe, $500, and that is actually now the
Thank you very much, Damien. Real details there. And I'd like to thank both of our vice chair at large candidates tonight. Manny and Damien, you're spectacular. You've got good answers, good thoughts, good plans, and I hear a lot of passion. Can we get a round of applause for our 2 wonderful candidates for vice chair at large for the party? Thank you so much. So before you leave, please put your contact information in the chat to share with everyone. And now I would like to welcome our secretary candidates. Each candidate has 1 minute to introduce him or herself. And we'd like to start with Pamela Herndon. Ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Pamela Herndon. I currently serve as Secretary of the Democratic Party of the state of New Mexico, and I'm seeking re-election. I'm a lifelong Democrat who has worked on local, state, and national campaigns, with the most recent being my work to help 2 Democratic senators from Georgia get elected so our country could get back to prioritizing the interest of people over politics. I have worked to make sure our meetings are conducted in an orderly, respectful manner. I spent the early days as a secretary teaching classes in Robert's Rules of Order and the rules of the Democratic Party. One of the most important roles of the secretary is to facilitate strong, respectful conversations and helping to make sure that those goals are met. Vote for me to continue to carry out those goals and objectives. I am counting on you.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Sorry about that. I don't know if my internet connection was lost, but I do apologize. Next, we go on to Torres for his opening statement.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. Dear friends, as soon as I turned 18, I did two things I felt were the most important acts of any adult life. I did register for military service, and I registered to vote as a Democrat proudly here in Valencia County. In times such as these, it is incumbent upon all those with the knowledge and experience in the political arena to make themselves available to do the challenging work of bettering the lives of as many people in this world as possible. For me, I ask humbly for your vote to serve in this position so that over the next 2 years, my service and sacrifice in your name can prove yet again how very much I continue to support each and every one of you in your agendas, your goals, and your dreams. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Torres. And now, Alicio Luna, please, we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, fellow New Mexicans. My name is Eli Luna, and I'm running for party secretary. I'd like to thank the Democratic Party of New Mexico and the caucuses for providing this opportunity to campaign and to speak. I'm excited to be here. I want to take a moment to introduce myself. I'm a prior U.S. Marine deployed for Desert Storm. My bachelor's degree is in psychology, graduate school in philosophy, and a Juris Doctor from Thomas M. Cooley Law School. I practiced criminal law during law school and immigration law afterwards. I've prosecuted cases and defended clients before even graduating. I am a current and past adjutant or secretary for the American Legion, Post 28 here in Roswell, having a membership of about 200. I am a past commander of Post 505 in Detroit. I am the founder and a trustee of a nonprofit legal aid. I also was a caseworker serving 5 counties for Southeast New Mexico while working for prior U.S. representative.
Thank you so much, Eli. Now we move on to Nicole for her opening statement.
Thank you for inviting me to be on this forum. My name is Nicole Alanovich. I'm 36 with a master's in social work and a master's in business. I've been involved in politics my entire adult life. As a woman, a daughter of 2 loving lesbians, a member of a huge loving Hispanic family that comes from the Martinez Maestas clan of Bernalillo, as a disabled veteran of Iraq, and most importantly, as a subsect of the population that needs representation within the Democratic Party, I am honored to be here. Inclusivity. This moment in history, we have a real chance of being the change. But first, we need to recognize the needs of those who have been afraid, shut out, and othered, or simply do not believe that engagement in politics will change anything. We have a chance at winning CD1, winning back CD2, and keeping our state blue into the future. The key, teamwork. So I look forward to this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you to all the candidates. Very, very diverse group, very amazing group that we have running for secretary. Now we move on to question number 1. The powers and duties for DPNM secretary do not specify any interaction with caucuses, although semi-annual caucus reports are submitted to the executive committee via you. Do you envision greater interaction and support of the caucuses? And if so, what would that consist of? We start with Torres. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you for both of your caucuses for allowing me to be here tonight. I believe that as an officer of the DPNM, it's critical that I be available to all of our caucuses in whatever capacity they feel best actually empowers their unique agenda and goals for any given election cycle. Just as no 2 Democratic voters are alike in their views or in the issues that are most important to them, our caucuses need partners in leadership that are willing to listen, learn, and act in harmony with each group's stated goals. As secretary, I pledge to you to open wide the doors of this office for just that purpose. As leaders of our party, it is us who work to ensure your continued success and prosperity, not the other way around. Thank you.
Thank you, Torres. And Eli, first, I just want to thank you for your service, Semper Fi, and ask you to answer the question. It's all yours.
Unmute there. All right, thank you. As party secretary, I envision greater interaction and support from the caucuses. Support and interaction goes both ways, of course. Only through communication both ways can we understand each other, seek common ground, and find a joint resolution. First, we need a current assessment of what procedures we have at the moment, then tailor adjustments accordingly if necessary. Second, a list of immediate needs, short-term goals, and long-term goals from caucuses. Then we can set priorities through discussions. Third, a timeline for taking appropriate steps to achieve these goals and placing certain persons in charge of parts of a timeline. By knowing where we are, what we need, and where we need to go, we can advance the quality of the lives of the people of New Mexico. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eli. Nicole, you have the floor.
So, as a female disabled veteran, I know what it's like to be overlooked, or worse, treated like a box that needs to be checked off but never tended to. Alongside the mandated requirements of secretary, I think it's important to build relationships with leaderships and the body. And I'm not just talking about the core of the Democratic Party, but I'm talking about our rural caucuses and the veteran and military caucuses, LGBTQ, youth, and the paid positions that keep our party in the know via the website. I have a schedule that is open and allows me to get to know you, your needs, desires, and drives, all while you get to know me at the same time. I know what it's like to feel stifled in a room full of folks, so we need to remember that individual voices are important too. In Albuquerque Interfaith, we do something called relational meetings. This is a one-on-one meeting where you simply get to know the person you're in a membership with. It's simple and it's something that I find that's greatly useful. I would like to attend leadership town halls, as well as host Zoom meetings, prepare Prezi presentations, upload reports, allow others to share, ask questions, and foster relationships. We can keep these uploaded for folks who cannot make it. I'm fully vaccinated, and I would definitely like to get to know the members of our rural districts and tribal land. Keeping in contact with tribal leadership, chapter houses, and individuals about their needs is something I've done with the Beauty Way Foundation. And recently, I've also did it with the Affordable Care Act. We need to keep our social media, our website, our email listservs up to date, and checking on members who once were active and are no longer active. Reaching out as a group to expand membership, phone banking, friend banking, door knocking, a Slack group chat. All of these resources are used when elections around the bend, and I think we can use it more often. More importantly, I would like to hear how you guys would like me to communicate. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, for your answer. And now, Pamela, it is your turn, ma'am.
Thank you. There are 10 caucuses or affiliated organizations within the Democratic Party. And so over the past 2 years, I've noticed a distinct difference between the way caucuses file those reports. Some are more detailed than others. So therefore, before the next caucus reports are due, I will create a uniform caucus reporting form that will help clarify and identify the issues that a caucus is working on and the areas of Democratic Party work that is most important to them. I will attend at least one meeting of each caucus each year to answer questions, to understand how we can all collaborate and work together. I will ask the caucuses to share their newsletters or position papers widely so that the entire party can understand the issues that are being developed and why certain positions are being taken. I will ask our elected officials to spend time attending the caucus meetings to make sure that the caucuses understand what the legislators are taking a position on, and the legislators can understand the caucus members. Caucuses often are the trusted voices of the communities. And as we unify and work together, we will have a stronger chance of helping the members of CD2 who are not Democrats to understand that adopting democratic values can raise their well-being and the well-being of their families. Finally, I will encourage joint meetings of the caucuses to share and exchange ideas to find the intersectionality of their work. The policies that we are all trying to implement will be easier to attain during council, commission, or legislative sessions when we make communication our top priority. And that will be the top priority that I will work on with caucuses. And thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thanks for all to all of you. So let's get on to the second question. and it has to deal with veterans. A primary function of an organizational secretary is communications and record keeping. Will you establish a working relationship with our caucus secretary to optimize effective communications and help us achieve mutual goals? If so, how do you envision improving the perception of the Democratic Party of New Mexico as truly being the party of veterans and our military families? And I'd like to invite Eli to go first, please, sir.
There we go. Thank you. As party secretary, I will establish a working relationship with the caucus secretary. With periodic status checks, we can work out any areas that need attention. We can set up a channel of communication with a procedure in place to provide the pertinent information to address any issues that arise. Helping veterans and their families was a priority in my last office and one that I take personally. Helping veterans and their families as party secretary will continue to be a priority with me. And I envision scheduling a series of outreach events with community partners for this caucus to handle intake, resolution of veteran issues in our state, and whatever other issues that they may have. This will include some direct contact with community providers to help with things like, for instance, dental care, financial guidance, employment, some of the daily living things and activities that people might have trouble with that aren't necessarily addressed directly by the VA. We have a lot of support within the community in our state, and I think we should utilize them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eli. Next, we have Nicole.
Thank you. So I'm happy to report that I'm a member of the Veteran and Military Family Caucus, and I look forward to being more involved with the caucus as a member. I think that being part of the caucus will help me gain a deep understanding of how to amplify our voice with the Democratic Party at large. I know there's a very deep misunderstanding that all military members are Republican. I know that my brothers and sisters that are still active in the service do not approve of the events of January 6th. I know that being a member of a very large conservative Hispanic family, that they do not like the direction that the GOP is going. And I know personally that it's possible to educate others who claim to be Republican, but at their core hold the values of the Democratic Party. These folks are looking for alignment. What 45 has done is given us a window of opportunity to reach across the aisle and kindly remind our veterans, military family, and active duty members that democracy is a responsibility. It's our oath, not hatred. Unfortunately, most folks think that the loudest person in the room represents the whole, and that's not true. I look forward to working with the secretary of the caucus, as well as the record keepers and leaders from our rural caucuses and counties, to stay in tune with their specific needs. I have used the word reciprocity in other forums, and I think it's key to communicate with party leadership, not just top down, but also bottom up. This way, our core leadership is updated with the needs of the party as a whole, and the caucuses are educated on the who, what, where, why, and how of state leadership. Things get messy when communication breaks down. Preparation and understanding are as important as the rules and bylaws. I humbly open my schedule to be educated by the caucuses, working together to help fine-tune messaging, healthy communication, and reach common goals, keeping in mind that each county and caucus may have differing needs, but it's still obtainable through teamwork. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate your answer. Pamela, now to you, ma'am.
Thank you. I will absolutely work very closely with the Secretary of the Veterans Caucus. The other thing that I will do is make sure that our Democratic Party does recognize veterans and their families by addressing the issues that are most pertinent to veterans. That includes things like healthcare, homelessness, education, and making sure that there's family support when a veteran returns home from being on active duty. It is important that we create an atmosphere where members of the Veterans Caucus can make sure that their voices are being heard and that they know that we're listening. That we provide links to services that veterans may need so that they can easily access the services that they look for. And that we educate our members about relevant pending matters and legislation that veterans are looking to make sure are implemented and passed. But most important, that we encourage people who are running for office and policymaking positions, that they recognize and understand the needs of veterans and their families. And most important, what I'm looking at doing is using a project called Project Echo to help bring together veterans and those who are providing services together as they talk on a monthly basis about what those needs are, to make sure that those needs are addressed accurately, currently, and promptly. Those are the things that will happen with me as your secretary. And thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Torres, you are up next.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to remind everyone that for more detailed information, the candidates have been graciously invited to put down written responses to that will be placed directly on the Veterans website for the Veterans Caucus. And so if you need more information on that, I would definitely suggest that you look that up. More information to come, I'm sure, through Dr. Reisner. It's a very good resource. As Secretary for the DPNM, my goal is to establish a professional working relationship with not only secretaries of our caucuses, but of our 33 counties right down to our precinct level. As I've stated before, openness and accessibility are a hallmark of my leadership commitment to you. As regards to the Veterans Caucus specifically, I've already made clear my commitment to your agenda by joining your caucus as a member and volunteering my services to your group, independent of and regardless of the final result of this election. I am a servant to you not because of any title or trust of office. Rather, it is my desire to see your goals achieved that inspire me to support you. That is, I feel, the best and proper way to show the true commitment to your caucus and to veterans and military and their families, both for now and in the future. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your answers to those questions. We are now moving on to question number 3. It is pertaining to rural issues. Will you provide assistance, a workshop, a training, etc., on how to effectively and efficiently be a county ward or caucus secretary in a rural community with limited resources? Nicole, you are up first.
So you are always a student and never a master. You have to keep moving forward. Conrad Hall. We just witnessed a blue wave up against a pandemic, voter suppression, and a lot of dark money. When 45's judges blocked our Secretary of State from sending out automatic mail-in ballots, we still showed up. I know that in February of 2020, I was traveling across the Southwest, teaching folks how to door knock, phone bank, text bank, etc. When I was told to stay home, that didn't mean I gave up. We learned how to use our computers, our phones, social media, and to amplify the use of Zoom to help folks write, vocalize, and understand public comment. I found being patient, kind, self-aware, and available to everyone are pillars. This legislative session, I worked really hard in building partnerships with AARP, Voices for Children, the National Association of Social Workers, Albuquerque Interfaith, and more to get broadband passed so that our elderly, veterans, rural communities, and multi-generational households could participate during a pandemic. However, the internet doesn't work for everyone, especially in rural areas. Thus, I am willing to safely travel, write postcards, telephone, text, stuff envelopes, and find any other ways that I can effectively uplift every voice. I look forward to meeting and assisting local leaders so that they can share this knowledge. It's a little upsetting when I hear folks talk about unique qualifications. It's a very privileged statement to say what you have done and others have not, because you're othering folks, and these 2 caucuses are already othered. I want to hear more people talk about distributing knowledge, education, goals, giving time, and holding space to share power and knowledge. When we empower the entire party and educate one another, we share the tools in our toolbox and we work better. I look forward to sharing my entire tool shed.
Thank you, Nicole. Really appreciate your answer. And now, Pamela, it's your turn, ma'am.
So what I've noticed over the years is that people who live in rural areas are the trusted voices of their community. I could never tell you what you need to do or what you must have or the training that you need. But what I will be doing is listening to you, for you to tell me what is the training, what are the services, what it is exactly that you need. What I will help you do is to learn how to use, if you don't think you know, how to use Democratic Party rules to help you get what you need for your communities. We want you to be the leaders in your communities. If it takes learning about Robert's Rules of Order so that you are conducting a very focused meeting, I will make sure that that happens. We'll also make sure that you know that there are legislators now that have started a rural caucus. So that means that your voices are being heard. We will help make sure that the items that you need in your community come to your community, like a walk-in storefront in Cedar Crest, for example, near the post office at NM 141, or that there's high active visibility for training in areas like Sierra County and Valencia County, and that we make sure that there are meetings that are held in rural areas and that they're not always held in the urban areas. So I want you to know that your voices are heard, your voices will be heard. When you tell us what you need, we will help you get the resources that you need to carry them out. And thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Taurus, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Your Honor. Just as I have with the Veterans Caucus, I've also communicated my desire to join the Rural Caucus and to serve its agenda as I serve the people of my own rural community party in Valencia County. It is because of my service at the rural, state, and national levels of the Democratic Party over the last 3 decades that I have committed to a program of developmental training for any caucus, county, or precinct organization who ask for such tools. Everything from helping register people to vote, to becoming a candidate oneself, to even becoming a candidate right here for your DPNM leadership team. As with these lessons have been given to me, I'm happy to partner with any group or individual to empower them with this same knowledge so that they can have the tools they need to advance their agendas and help Democratic candidates win across our states for generations to come. The power is in your hands. Let me be your servant in this role. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Torres. And now we turn to Eli.
Thank you very much. As party secretary, I will utilize our resources to host trainings, webinars, and set up a knowledge base for reference purposes. I'd like to see outreach to the high schools and to the colleges to form chapters of young Democrats or leadership pipeline to help take the party forward. These training tracks will offer all people the opportunity to learn from our experienced members and possibly to join a mentorship program for organizing our party from the bottom up. An information exchange between counties to share resources and to coordinate events as a group and as a party. Together, I think if we join forces and have coalition type events, we can gain more excitement and gain some more opportunity for our party. Thank you very much.
Well, I agree. Actually, I agree with what all 4 of you have said. This is showing me how much potential this office has, and it's really exciting, frankly. It feels like a continuation of the blue wave. We need to turn this baby into a tsunami. So I'd like to thank all of our secretary candidates, and please join me in a round of applause. Takes a lot of commitment to run. I really appreciate it. Well, Mayor Peter, we are actually ahead of schedule. A nice forum run with military precision and a little bit of time to do a quick wrap up. I'd just like to say in my closing remarks that I'm so enthusiastic. I feel so good about what each of these candidates has talked about. We've got specific plans, we have goals, we have strategies, and it's all leading to action, to recruit, to empower, to train, to vote for, to support, but to do it inclusively. What I would like to ask is that we not have one Republican candidate run unopposed in any future elections. We can't stand for that. They have to be challenged. And we've got the party of the people. We have plenty of people who would like to run. Maybe they just don't know it yet. I remember about a year and a half ago, a friend out here in the East Mountains asked me to run, and I thought, how crazy, I'm never doing anything like that. Well, anyway, it wasn't so crazy. It was a wonderful experience. And whether you win or lose, you learn a lot. You learn because you talk to people and you listen to them and you hear what's important. And really, they sell you on wanting to represent them. So I'm going to be an advocate for veterans and military families and people who live in rural communities and our Native Americans and the Black Caucus and any other caucus out there, because together we can get this done. So I want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We have another forum, very important, on Wednesday, where we're going to hear from each one of our CD vice chairs and the treasurer candidate. Please join us for that. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Peter, my co-host.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Again, I appreciate the Veterans Caucus joining forces with the Rural Caucus tonight. I appreciate all our candidates for joining us and taking time out of your day to join us and answer questions. It was so great to learn about each and every one of you. I echo Claudia's statements on enthusiasm for the party. I also want to say, as she said, you know, sometimes we lose and that it's not fun to lose, but you have to get up. It makes you stronger. And please, if you happen to lose, please keep fighting for the Democratic Party. I lost twice in public office before I actually was elected mayor. I was elected councilor, but you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So keep fighting for the blue brand, and let's continue to make New Mexico that great deep blue state. So thank you all so much again for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. We look forward to night 2. That's going to be on Wednesday. And thank you again to all our audience members and especially all our candidates for showing up and for giving us a part of who you are. So thank you so much. Everyone have a great night and thank you again.